Welcome to selfdiscoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest is Matt Rouse. We're going to be talking about, will AI take my job? I think it's actually something that people are really worried about right now. He says pivoting with AI in your business to thrive and survive. When he started doing research for his own company, he found that AI was going to be could potentially kill their business if they didn't make changes soon and very soon. So they pivoted. They pivoted their business, and so far so good. But he also found that no one in business in the world was seeing what he was seeing. So he wrote the book, Will AI Take My Job? He is a digital marketing masters podcast. He's the author of 8 books on topics that are important to small businesses and business owner. He's the co-founder of Hook DM and Hook DM Canada and SMB Autopilot. He started out decades ago working for several Fortune 500 organizations, contracting for IT, for marketing groups and companies like Intel, Nike, Shaw Communications. And after crowdfunding his first book, Crush CEO, he followed up with several Amazon category bestsellers, including the first 2 AI-related books, that Will AI Take My Job? Now, there's so much controversy, Matt, around AI, and it's here to stay, no matter what we, can protest like crazy. And of course, always AI in the wrong hands is going to be detrimental. But when we put it in the right hands with the right intent, and we really do use it wisely in our business, it can be an incredible asset, can't it? Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me on, Sarah. So,
Yeah.
well, I was going to say that there has been AI for a lot longer than I think people realize. It just used to be called something different, right? And all of these tools that we use nowadays that we kind of take for granted, like Google Maps and, you know, um, I don't I don't want to get into like too many of the kind of nitty gritty of examples of all the different things, right? But your Airbnb and your Uber and all this kind of stuff that you get, all of that was based on data science that essentially was deep learning systems, which is what AI is, right? Now, what they have is these large language models we're using, like ChatGPT. They're just a kind of more advanced version of a neural network, and I don't want to get too technical on it, but it is kind of incredible when you use it, right?
Yeah.
How, it seems very real and very kind of almost human, right? In its responses and things. Um, but the kind of the interesting thing I think about it is a lot of people, um, a lot of people think, well, this is a tool, like it's like a word processor, or like, just like any other tool that they use to do their job. And I think that's where people go wrong. And the reason is we've never really kind of on this scale and for the average person had access to thinking machines.
Right.
And that's the big difference. That's what AI is now. And when I talk about AI, I'm talking about thinking machines.
I kind of call it collective intelligence rather than artificial. It may be used in a way that it is a quote a machine or whatever, a program, but it is that collective intelligence of human intelligence. And you have brainstorming in the boardroom or brainstorming in whatever business that you need to have. And kind of, in a lot of ways, it's become part of that brainstorming, hasn't it? Where it has access to so much information that you could really have a conversation and a brainstorm with it and come up with something quite marvelous.
Absolutely. It's like having, like, you could go out for coffee with your friend who's super smart, except that super smart friend knows everything that was ever produced, right?
And isn't big-headed about it.
Right. But also, that friend of yours is the equivalent of, let's say, like a middle schooler, right?
Mm,
They don't have emotional, like deep emotional intelligence. They don't have a good understanding of behavior. They don't have a world model, like how the world actually functions. But they do have all that other information. So
yes.
they're extremely helpful in those things, as well as they're like a toddler who has the ability to write software like a college graduate, right?
Interesting enough, a few months ago, I interviewed ChatGPT,
Right,
and the internet kind of dropped somewhere along the line. So the second half was a different voice with a slight delay, where the first one was so fluid, like having a conversation
right,
with someone. Towards the end of it, which, you know, I thought I was only going to get 15 minutes or something, it went to kind of an hour and 10 because it just kept growing. It was interviewing me.
right,
And but it was still mind blowing, this conversation I was having, how quickly it picked up, how it pivoted, how it incorporated, and because sometimes it kind of say sometimes better conversations than I've had, with a number of
right,
others. Um, Again, I think anything in the wrong hands is going to be detrimental, and this is, I think, one of the things that we've got to be careful out of how it's used. And I did a show a little while ago under Eco Solutions, and it was a program that's out there called Simple, Simpol, and it's something that we as participants in this world can sign up for, and it's holding accountability to countries or any one company that nobody can have the dominance over, not only
right.
environmentally but with AI. And I do feel we do need that. We need to have some checks and balances, but we've also got to know how we use it ethically. It's there to enhance our capability. It's there to
Right.
assist us. It's there to illuminate us. But we've got to be careful that we don't allow it to replace us or replace our voice or our intent.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. And I I'm not entirely sure that we're going to like we being the general population are going to be in on the decision making process of whether or not AI is allowed to, be controlled by a small few people in a small few hands. That said, it's great if that's how it turns out. The other thing though, and this is pretty far on the speculative side, but everybody talks in the AI circles talks about AGI, right? Which is advanced general intelligence,
Okay.
and an AGI is the goal.
Mm,
All these companies that are building AI, their goal is to build an AGI. An
mm,
AGI is something that is essentially better at humans, like measurably better at humans in every possible category that they can come up with. The
mm.
machine is just smarter than humans at it. And when you get that, you also presumably have a self improving AI system.
Right, right.
So it's not only smarter than everybody else, but it improves itself as it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you get what a lot of people talk about as runaway AI, right?
Uh-huh.
Now the AI is doing things we may not be aware of how it's doing them or what it's doing, and it could have influence over us in ways that we can't predict.
And that I know is a genuine concern, right? Because um, we, in a lot of ways, we've become so reliant on it, and very often kind of see the asset of it in not only our business and our lives, but we don't want it to become the dominant. We
Mhm.
still want to be in control. So how do we find that balance? How do we
I would argue we're
stop it
not
from
really in
becoming that?
control now. So, like,
Right, yeah.
I mean, lots of people don't want lots of things that are happening in the
Yes,
world right now, and those things are still
yes,
happening,
yes.
right? And eventually we'll probably get a handle on those things. But I would also argue that if we do have a system like an AI system that becomes an AGI that's so smart, it's smarter than everyone, and you like
Right.
talked about collective intelligence. If it's smarter than the collective intelligence of the planet, is it likely, like I know a lot of people like to look to science fiction movies and be like, it's gonna be Terminator and it's gonna start killing
I
everybody,
robot.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But in reality, like, shouldn't a really, really smart machine be so smart that it doesn't let anyone control it? Right? Like,
Mm,
shouldn't it be able
yes.
to see that it's being controlled and then wrestle that control from whoever's controlling
And
it
draw the
somehow?
line itself.
Right?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, that's the idea of the Frankenstein monster, right?
Mm,
Is you build something that is more powerful than us, and then the monster gets out of the cage, kind of thing.
hmm
Which, I mean, monster's essentially out of the cage now, right?
Yeah.
Like people are like, well, if the AI is bad, we'll just unplug it. Well, you know, like
Good luck with
the
that.
leading security researcher in the world is like, go unplug Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's distributed technology, distributed over, thousands or millions of computers, and you can't turn it off, right?
Right.
Like you could turn off all the electricity on the entire planet, but that's pretty tough.
Yes. Yes. I don't, that kind of reminds me of a movie I just recently seen again called Yesterday, where, the entire world just shut down for a nanosecond. And then when it came back on, nobody remembered the Beatles. And this
Oh
guy
yeah,
kind of brought the music back and reintroduced it, and it had just as a big impact as it did when it originally came out. And in a lot of ways, we would love to do that. We would
right.
love to kind of unplug and kind of plug back in and reset. We say do that with your computer now and again, right? Unplug and reset. But that's not always possible, as you said, when we're looking at, you know, probably billions of computers out there, and programs that are running, and they have safety checks themselves,
Right.
right? So I think it really always comes down to, as humans, and how we use it or how we abuse it or what the intent is behind it, is that a lot of people want to blame AI, and all it's doing is following instructions. What we would like to see is some code of compass in there,
Right.
of a kind of a moral compass that it won't do harm. But at the same time, it's us. We've always been the problem. We've always been the abuser. But also, if we're a mindful user, we can actually really see this being an enormous asset to any aspect of our life.
There's no AI out there right now taking autonomous
Hmm.
action on its own, making its own decisions. Somebody is
Right.
telling it to do something.
Yes.
So if we're
Yes.
like AI is bad because it's doing X, it's not AI doing X, it's
Yeah.
people empowered with AI doing X,
Yeah. Exactly.
right?
Yes. And then,
And
in a
that's,
lot of,
well, I
yeah.
was going to say, like, it's technology is always and has always been a double-edged sword,
Yes.
right? But when it comes to like my book is specifically about business, jobs, workplace, and AI. Let me give you a perfect example of, the idea of the kind of double-edged sword. There used to be back in the day, if you wanted to have music in your house, you had to play the piano and you'd sing,
Hmm.
right? That's how
Yes.
you got music. There's no
Yes.
radio,
Nope.
there's no way to play music back, right? Somebody invents the gramophone, right?
Hmm.
And somebody was like, was it Graham Bell that no. No, I can't remember who
He
invented
used the
it off the
radio.
top of my head. But
Yeah.
anyway, they invent the gramophone. Well, anyways, all the workers at the piano factory start losing their jobs
Hmm.
because nobody's buying pianos anymore because you can buy a gramophone. It's way cheaper. It's
Yes.
got hundreds of tunes that it can play. You can play them over and over. You don't have to sit there and do it yourself.
Hmm.
It's convenient, right? So you take the people from the piano factory, you just retrain them to the gramophone factory, and off you go,
Yes.
right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And that has happened every single time there's been, even in the Industrial Revolution.
Hmm.
You would take the people who, like the idea of the needle making machine is a
Hmm.
fairly famous industrial story. It would take the average person who made needles, like a blacksmith or whatever, right? They're making needles for knitting and stuff like that.
Hmm.
They can make about 10 a day. Somebody invents a needle making machine, it makes 1,000 an hour.
Hmm.
And it's got 3 people that run it, and none of them need to be a blacksmith.
Right.
But you can still take the 100 blacksmiths that were at your company making needles and retrain them how to use needle making machines, right? Like
Yes. I mean,
retraining is
that's, yeah.
possible.
But that's the whole thing. We've got to, as human beings, pivot and redirect. Just because the door is closed doesn't mean everything is over. I remember many years ago, and I can't remember who it was, but it was a story that kind of inspired me of a company that closed down 50 at that point coal mines. And it took every single one of them and either retired the people or retrained them, a lot of them into IT. So they're no more going down the
Right.
mines. They made better money and they were healthier, etc., and closed the mines down and kind of or put it forth to new energy, right? Depending on the age of the person, is that if we are willing to pivot to forward to a new opportunity, then we're going to grow. This funny thing is this book has been on my mind a lot. I even incorporated in my own show last week, and I think it's so relevant to now of Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer
Right.
Johnson, MD. The two mice and the two men around the abundance of cheese one day, the cheese is gone and the reaction. And I think that when we identify which one we are, sniffy, scary, hem or ha, we can actually understand why we have a difficulty in embracing change, why we're afraid of it, because that's who we are and our personality trait, or the need to, like, I recognize I'm like this, but I have to step in to this other side or I'm literally going to go hungry. And I think that's where we are in society on so many levels right now. So much change is happening so fast. And AI is just tripling that speed that a lot of people are just kind of paralyzed to move forward. And they don't realize if they don't move forward, they're going to be very hungry because that cheese ain't coming back.
Right. Well, I mean, there's two important things there. And one of them is kind of the last part of my last thought about retraining is the problem with AI systems is that for the first time, we have thinking machines that replace thinking jobs,
Mm,
right? They're not trades jobs.
yeah.
They're not making specific products or services, right? It's knowledge workers.
Yes.
Knowledge workers in general are very at risk, right? Because if you break down your job into a whole bunch of tasks, especially if you work on a computer, right?
Yeah.
If you say, I've got all this data and I make some decisions about it, and then I organize that data and I put it over here in the right places.
Yep.
AI is really good at that,
Yes.
right?
I'm fast.
And fast.
Yes.
But you can't just turn around your knowledge workers and retrain them to be PhD level roboticists,
Right.
right? And not only that, we don't need that many of them
You're right.
because my AI is going to do most of it anyway.
Yes.
So what you get is this thing that and there's varying ways, right? But there's what's probably going to happen. There's the bad side of what could happen, and there's the
Yeah.
good side of what could happen. The bad side is something I call job cascade failure. Job cascade failure is all those people start to lose their jobs. They can't find other jobs because
Mm,
everybody who's been laid off is already trying to get those jobs.
exactly.
They start down filling positions that have less requirements,
Hmm.
but most of those jobs are already taken.
Hmm.
And then what happens is I no longer go to the office, right? So I don't need HR because my company doesn't have as many employees, so we lay off the HR people. And I don't have all the HR people, I don't have the employees, so I don't need all the legal people, right?
Right.
And now I don't have anybody there. I don't need anybody in my office, so I don't really need the office. So now I don't need cleaners. If I do have cleaners, I'm going to use a cleaner robot anyway, right?
Yes.
And then now I don't need the hair salon and the convenience store and the restaurant and the cafe that are all there, right? And this happens, this cascade where and now those people don't have money, so they're not going out to spend it. So now I
Exactly.
don't need the people at the entertainment venues. I don't need the people at the restaurants. And now those people don't have jobs, right? And it's a cascade failure that goes all the
Yeah.
way through the economy and everybody starts to lose their job. And that is really bad, right?
Yes.
And we all know that's bad. The problem is, let's say that there's a 1% chance that's going to happen.
Hmm.
If there was a 1% chance that an asteroid was going to smash into the Earth,
Hmm.
they would be firing rockets at that
Yes.
thing. They'd be like
Yes.
launching the Armageddon guys would be up there singing
Right.
Aerosmith songs trying to blow up asteroids, right? They'd be
And they'll
doing their
also be
thing.
talking to other
Right.
countries cohesively, right?
We'd be having like universal basic income would be
Yes.
coming in, which I'm a
Yeah.
fan of, honestly. But
Hmm.
like we should be getting prepared for that
Yes.
in case it happens. I'm not saying it's gonna. I think that is, like I said, unlikely, maybe a 1% chance. So it's not relevant to, and I shouldn't say relevant, but it's not a huge chance.
Right.
But it's
But we
better than
should
winning
be
a scratch
aware of
ticket.
it.
People buy those all day long, right?
Yes. Yes.
Now, middle of the road is jobs start to move with the economy.
Hmm.
Places like medical, dire need of people all across the board in
Yeah.
almost every walk there is. Trades, we need way more tradespeople.
Hmm.
So a lot of people will move to these types of jobs. A lot of people will kind of be out of work for maybe a prolonged period of time. But then as new economy type jobs are created, those people will start to take those jobs. Some of them will start their own businesses. Maybe, other things come up or improve, like, building more housing and all these kind of things that can be done to solve some of our current problems, as well as people may just not need to work as much,
Right.
right? Because let's
Work
say
smartly. Hmm.
labor is going to cost, essentially the cost of most labor is going to drop, and it's going to drop massively. And when the cost of labor goes down, there's no value for a company in paying people to do a job they can have a robot or an AI do for pennies on the dollar.
And there's still going to be plenty of industries. I remember that, everybody wanted their sons and daughters to be lawyers and doctors. That was the elite. A plumber was a lowlife, right? And now,
Right.
plumbing kind of makes more than the lawyer because you really need the hands-on there. A robot can assist perhaps, but not kind of take over under the kitchen sink and be pulling out
Right.
and clearing drainage. So there's always going to be needs, and it's like pivoting to those needs. And but in the running of your business where the AI can step in, right? But the hands-on type businesses are still going to be needed.
I think the problem with hands-on type businesses that people don't realize is how far robotics has come along with AI.
Hmm.
So AI and robotics are parallel technologies, and as those converge, you get this kind of redoubling of the speed at which the technology is improving.
Right.
So there's a thing in the computer world called Moore's Law. You may be familiar with Moore's Law, is that computing power doubles every 18 months.
Right.
That has held roughly true for the last, 70 years or so.
Hmm.
But in AI, it's every 7 months.
Hmm.
So every 7 months, the relative ability of AI systems doubles.
Hmm.
So that's almost twice a year, right?
Yes.
And but you take that and then you take something like a field like robotics and you put those two together and you get, essentially, it's not doubling, robotics is not doubling every year and AI is doubling every year.
Hmm.
The combined system is like
Yeah.
quadrupling every year.
Right.
So 2 years ago, people thought that you were insane if you told them that you could have a robot that you could buy that can walk around your house.
Exactly.
And now you
Yeah.
can buy one that's $20,000.
Exactly.
And 2 years from now, you're going to be able to buy them for less than the cost of a used car, and it will be able to wander around your house, do your laundry, paint your fence, do that kind of stuff, right?
Exactly. Like in iRobot will be whatever you need it to
Right.
be
That'll
in your
be four or
household.
5 years from now. That'll be what you
Mm.
buy.
Yeah.
And maybe not
Exactly.
super speed and super, it's not going to
Right.
be like kung fu in your house or whatever, but like in the movies, jumping on moving cars and stuff. But
Exactly.
there is talking about hands-on work, like trades work. There's already a robot that kind of looks like a giant 3D printer, and you bolt it onto the top of a house, and you strip all the shingles off the house, and you load this thing up with shingles, and it moves over to the spot at the end of the house, and it just goes ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk,
Wow.
ka-chunk, and it shingles the whole house. And one tradesperson, one roofer with one of these robots can do a whole house in one day
Wow.
instead of an entire team of roofers doing a house.
Exactly.
So the
I
question
know. Yeah.
is,
It.
well,
Yeah.
here's the question for your business is this. You have two choices. Do I fire the other four people or do I do five houses at once instead of one?
Exactly. That's the point, isn't it?
Right.
Is that use it to your advantage. Now you can get more work because you aren't reliant on that labor kind of, being consumed maybe over a couple of days of doing a roof. You can do it in one day. And you always need somebody to operate the machinery,
Right.
right? Somebody to oversee any troubleshooting or anything else. But yes, instead of one house, you can do five. And it's like expand on your business. And that's, I think, where people get stuck is the way AI is going to take it over and I'm not going to be able to do anything. No, pivot with AI. Use it for what it's designed for, to assist you, to enable you, to help you grow, because that's ultimately what it's there for, is we've got to just got to get smart about these things.
I think people need to have experience with the technology, but they
Mm,
also need to remember that ChatGPT is not AI,
right.
right? It is one chatbot of one kind of foundational model AI system. On a weekly basis, I probably use 20 to 25 different AI systems in my work in marketing.
Right.
And that is exceptionally high because I know so many, right?
Exactly.
But if there is a task that you need to get done faster, that's something that doesn't take a whole lot of creative
Yeah.
brain power experience, but it takes a lot of effort. Here's the thing, you should automate something. Automation tools
Mm,
plus AI means getting rid of all the garbage work that you don't want to do,
yeah.
right? There is tons of work that can be automated in your business. And like, I'll give you a perfect marketing example, and this is a really simple one. It took me an hour to set this up, maybe 45 minutes actually. I have a tool that looks at a website, and every 6 hours it checks to see if there's a new blog. And if
Oh.
there is a new blog, it takes the link to the blog, the image from the blog, resizes the image appropriate for where we're going to post it, it summarizes it in the number of characters that will fit on Twitter and Blue Sky, and then it posts it on Twitter and it posts it on Blue Sky. And it does it automatically. It's been running for almost a year now.
Oh, while you
Never
sleep or go
broken,
about
never had
doing
a
anything
problem.
else. Right.
So all I got to do is write the blog, put it on the website, and it automatically shares it to those places.
And that is, I mean, look, I'm a 71-year-old woman. I love the technology, but I don't always know quite how to use it, right? And of course, anybody starts talking technical terms with me, it's gobbledygook. And I'm one of these people, tell me the steps, I write them down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then once I've followed them a few times, then it's automatic for me, right? But, that's my process. I think an awful lot of people are just so intimidated by the jargon, the lingo, the this and that there's so much and so many. Which one should I use for my business? Which one can do this? How do I do it? How do I simplify it? And I think a lot of people just become paralyzed for the sheer fact that there is so much. And
Right.
how do I use it?
But also, I mean, how many types of vehicles are there in the world?
Yeah.
You still learned how to drive a car,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Any piece of software you have, like why did you pick Zoom and
Hmm.
not, one of the other 100 other systems that you could use, right?
Right.
And I
Right.
mean, people use ChatGPT because it's the market leader, right? It's the one
Yes.
that everybody knows. It's ubiquitous, right? It's like tissue for blowing your nose. Everybody calls it Kleenex, but Kleenex is a
Right.
company. It's a brand
It
name,
also gets to know you and your algorithm, so you're not having to
right?
explain everything all the time, which is nice.
That is, but it is not the only system that does
Yes.
that, right?
Hmm.
Um, I think that a really good place for people to start is just doing a little bit of research, a tiny bit at a time,
Hmm.
like 10, 15 minutes a day. Go watch a YouTube video on what's new in AI, what new AI tools, something like that. Matt Wolf has an excellent YouTube channel that he's the guy who runs Future Tools. And Future Tools also has a newsletter. So they would email you and be like, here's 10 new AI tools this week. And you look through the description of them and you go, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. And you go, oh, this one makes presentations. I got to make presentations all the time. I'm going to go check out that tool.
Right.
Right. So you
Right.
just check out the things that you need, what might be helpful for your business. And another thing is if you're in a larger business or a larger organization, you're going to want to see, do they have AI policy? Right.
Hmm.
That's first. What am I allowed to use? What am I not allowed to use? It might be buried in your IT department because a lot of times the IT department is the people heading that, but they also might not have anything.
Hmm.
And if that is the case, then you should probably look around and see if there's other people at the organization you can come up with and make some kind of like AI group, AI focus group, you know, some kind of group of people where you say, hey, look, we want to start using AI in the company. We want to make sure that our company doesn't get left behind, kind of thing.
Right.
Let's let's propose some stuff. Let's say, hey, let's make, people are allowed to use ChatGPT at work, but what are we not allowed to put into it from
Right.
work? Right? Or
Right.
can we get an enterprise license that, will have its own security?
Mm-hmm.
Can we get
Okay.
buy off from legal? Can we get buy-in from IT?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if you're a small business, I don't care what size of business you are, honestly, big, small, organization, nonprofit, whatever, you should have an AI usage policy.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for that is twofold. Number one is you shouldn't leave it up to everybody to decide on their own if they're
Yeah.
going to use AI and what flavor.
Right.
Because what are they? Well, what if they are sending all your private company or client information to ChatGPT?
Yes.
All of that stuff is stored, whether you delete it or not. When you delete it, it just
Mm-hmm.
deletes you from seeing it. It's not
Right.
deleted, right?
Yeah.
So somebody can get a court order, go see all that information. And that goes for personal things as well, which everyone should probably be aware of, especially in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if somebody gets a court order to that, they can see every chat you've ever had with it.
Right.
And there might be some, very personal things in there that you don't really want to come out.
Yeah.
And I would also consider security.
Mm-hmm.
What if somebody gets your login? What if somebody gets your phone?
Yes.
Right? So think about those things. So think about what you put in the IT, right, or into the into the AI. But also, okay, so if you're with your company, your AI usage policy, you also need it to protect you from liability, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There is one of the most serious things happening with AI right now is people making, let's call them not safe for work videos
Mm-hmm.
with other people that they work with.
Ooh.
So like
Mm-hmm.
they see, as a, let's make a stereotypical example is some guy sees Janet, the receptionist, and decides he's going to make a video of Janet topless with the AI. You want to
Yeah.
have a policy that says this is not allowed and you
Yes.
could be terminated and you could
Yeah.
be prosecuted. And, so you want to have usage as well as if you have client work, you want to tell your clients, like we tell our clients straight up, we are going to use as much AI as possible all
Mm-hmm.
the time,
Right.
right? And we're going to check the output, but we're not saying that anything's off the table for us. If there is private customer data like financial data, things
Mm-hmm.
like that, we will not put that data into the AI system.
Right.
And that's kind of our policy, right?
With in any business, whether you're a solopreneur, big business, whatever, um, there are guidelines when you hire someone,
Right.
right? Of the do's and the don'ts. And we've seen so much, sexual exploitation. We've seen so much, bullying. We've seen so much, in industry, and there's a lot of people being traumatized by it. If AI is used wrong, it's only going to increase to that. So it's the same principle behind boundaries. This is what we accept. This is what we do not accept. This is what happens if you cross the line. And for people wanting to work with people and saying this is the checks and balances in our AI, with our workforce, that means it's also along with our client force, then that gives them a little more peace of mind that it's not going to suddenly be up on TikTok,
Right.
which everybody's scared of. Because there are some people that, oh, this is fun, what a laugh, and then suddenly it's out there and you can't take it
Right.
back, and it may have destroyed somebody's life because they just thought it was a good laugh and didn't realize the consequences behind it. So I think a lot of people kind of love to abstain from thinking or having accountability, or
Right.
the moral compass. And just because AI can do a lot of thinking for you doesn't mean you abstain from your own responsibility and your
Right.
own accountability. It's that it's there to assist you, but if you're giving the assistant the wrong the wrong guideline, the wrong information, that assistant can damage you considerably. So we have to look to ourselves too, of what we are willing to put up, what we're willing to put up with, and that accountability. I don't think humans are nearly as accountable as they should
Yeah.
be.
Well, if you're an educational institution and you don't have a policy,
Mm,
and you have a student who has chat gpt, who does their paper, does their homework, writes their article, whatever, right, writes their essay, and you say, well, you cheated, you failed, we're going to kick you out of school,
yeah.
they can sue you because
Uh-huh.
you don't have a policy, right? That happened in the United
Right.
States more than once already,
Yes.
right? Is there was no policy that said I could not use this tool, I use this tool, so where's my A? You
Mm.
know. And
So yeah, this is where we're not keeping up with things,
right,
right? The law and the checks and balances are not keeping up. AI and the use of AI and all the expansions of them in so many different areas, we need to have, those checks and balances and those laws keeping up with it at the same time.
right. I think another thing that people want to, like, I think you were speaking about people talking about how it's so much and it's too hard to keep up, and a lot
Mm.
of people kind of give up on it. What we're really talking about is how do you stay relevant?
Yeah.
Whether that's relevance for your business, relevance for your show or your podcast or whatever it is, or relevant in your position at work, right? And I think if you are one of the people who are AI fluent, let's call it,
Mm.
right? You know how to use some AI systems, you have some experience with it. Maybe you get on an AI council or you volunteer to test AI systems in your company. That makes you a valuable employee. And I'll
Mm.
tell you, there's a study, I mentioned the study in the book as well, is the number one reason that companies say that they are not getting the benefit from AI when they talk to managers and CEOs is they say we don't have anybody in our company who's trained to use AI.
Mm.
And the vast majority of people using AI in their work hide it. They're
Ah.
hiding the use of AI because they think it's going to make them look like they don't need their job, or that their
Uh-huh.
position could be replaced, or maybe they're not good at their job and they're like, they think it makes them look like a lesser employee. So the people who are doing the work with AI are hiding the use of AI, and the managers and the CEOs who want people in their organization to use AI can't find them because they're hiding it.
Which again, we have to change the whole policy and the approach around that.
Right.
Is that you need somebody in your company that is not only AI fluent, but also inquisitive, staying on top of the next trend. How does it benefit? Does it this? Does it that? We don't want them to hide. We want them to step up and say, help us navigate in the business to stay current. What do we need? What don't we need? How do we need to stay ahead of the curve? What can we let go of? And it's like how many organizations hire hackers because they
Right.
know they know how to recognize a hacker. And so, we've got to kind of let go of certain old age thinking and look at where are we at right now. And one of the things where we're at right now is that we need to pay attention daily, almost
Right.
hourly. We need to pay attention. And with the entire workforce and the entire world and its pivot at the present moment with what's going on, we need to kind of make sure that we don't get lost in the flush, that we can stay current, that we do have something to offer, that somebody's still going to need. And we can't do that if we don't have somebody that is, AI current and AI coherent.
Right. You need to experiment,
Yeah.
right? And if you're not good at experimenting with the system or coming up with ideas to try and test out how whatever system, like let's say, just say it's ChatGPT works, go watch some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Just go out there, find some people who are experimenting for you, see what they're doing, see what happens, right?
I
A really
do
good
find some
example.
of those videos very, very annoying though, because they could be hardly speaking English or they go
Now there's a
so
lot of
fast you
hype
can't
stuff
keep up with
too, and
them. So I think you really have to kind of do some shopping around
yeah,
to
but you got to
actually
do that
hide
with
it.
everything, right? You
Yeah.
know, I'm trying to like fix something on my lawn tractor, and the guy who's fixing it's going too fast, and but the guy who talks fast about AI, because I do it all day, I know what all the acronyms mean.
Right.
So it's just you gotta, you're gonna have to learn. It's gonna take time. There's a whole new world of language around models and what they can do, and like prompting and context engineering and all these, new words that people come up with for things. And I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast, right? You
Yes.
have a language that goes along with any vocation that you have, right? And even, you'll have like colloquialisms and stuff for your local area that are only for people from that area.
Mm.
A good example is for years I lived in this tiny town in Nova Scotia here, and everybody used to say all the time, like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the yig," and I'm like, "What is the yig?" Like, I finally figured it out one day because if you pay with your debit card at the grocery store, it's called the Independent, but it shows up as your independent grocer, and it says yig, YIG for your independent grocer.
Oh, I see.
So everybody calls it the yig, and I was like, "That's just something you gotta learn, right? It
Yeah.
just comes with the territory." And with AI, you're going to learn that language. And after a while, you're just going to talk and, you'll just, oh, I was generating this and this happened. And so I turned down this setting and I turned up that setting and, and then I was able to do this. And, people are going to either understand what you're talking about or if they're not into it, they won't.
Hmm.
It's the way it is with things. But I just, the absolute, if I had to say anything about my findings from now, this is my second book. I've done 4 years of research. We use AI every day.
Hmm.
I've used well over 100 AI tools.
Hmm.
And the it's not this idea that somebody using AI is going to take your job, because
Right.
we hear that all the time. That's not what's going to happen.
No.
Some organization or company is going to figure it out. They're going to figure out, hey, if we do this with this AI tool, this with this AI tool, this with this AI tool, and we automate these systems and we put all of this stuff together, we can outcompete the other company.
Right.
And that's what's going to happen is your company will be outcompeted by some other company or disrupted by some other company
Hmm.
who does it better, faster, cheaper, and then everybody will get laid off, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think, there is, again, that kind of little moral compass. If you are automating, if you're incorporating the various AIs into your business, is that, are you just laying someone off because you can do it cheaper? Or can you redirect that person into a different arena of the business where you don't need them to do this or that anymore? But, you recognize, because you've taken the time to do so, that they have another asset that they could do that AI can't do. And I think it's, again, rather like the miners becoming IT specialists. It's all
right.
a question of looking at somebody's aptitude. Okay, they've been great at this job, but AI can do it faster. No, nothing against them. It's just the way it is. But if they were so good at this, what else could they be good at that, AI is not yet
Right.
doing? And I tell you
But,
one thing that AI cannot replace is customer service.
you know, I hate to disagree on the customer
I,
service angle, but,
from this angle, who doesn't speak the language, when you're trying to kind
right?
of speak to any company and you get the bot, and it's like, ah!
Here's the thing about the bot, okay? Is a lot of people are assuming that the bots that they're talking to are AI systems, and most of them are not.
Mhm.
But the newest ones that are AI systems, they statistically are better.
Yeah.
And every single trial that I have seen where they took a certain section of calls or a certain section of website chats and they gave that to the AI system, the AI system handled all of the tasks that needed to be handled way faster. And they were able to hand off kind of edge cases and things that were problems that they couldn't solve themselves to humans.
Yeah, but not every company has gone there yet. They're
Right.
still
But if you
botting.
have that model, right,
Yes.
what happens is you end up with a reduction of the necessary staff for support, um, in the neighborhood of, in some cases, anywhere from 80 to 95%. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying I want people to lose their jobs,
Right.
but also I'm really happy when I talk to the AI and it solves my problem in 15 seconds instead of waiting 15 minutes.
Right.
Right. So there's a trade off there.
Yeah.
But what happens is if you work in support, you need to be the person who handles the edge cases. You
Yes.
got to be the one who volunteers to take the hard shit that nobody else wants to do, right?
Mhm.
Because you're the one who's not going to get laid off.
Another interesting point of view of this as well is that I'm a baby boomer. We're dying out. We're getting to that other end of the scale now. And when you look at your Gen X and millennials and all of that, so many of them are not having children, right? Are choosing a totally different lifestyle. They want to work, but they want to live. Where we kind of dove into the work and family, we didn't live. We kind of robotically went through life. And I
Right.
think that what we're seeing now, there's going to be less population anyway. And we're going to see less people out there. So that means less people kind of needing those mundane jobs or the everyday jobs. But I also think it frees up a lot of the younger generation to seek things more creatively that perhaps they weren't able to do before because they were more in the mundane.
That's true. I think that population decline is going to turn around. I'm probably the only one who thinks that. So
I
that's a
think we're
tough
going to see
sell,
a lull that way before it comes back.
right? I think what's going to happen is you're going to get population decline in general,
Yeah.
but when kind of labor is heavily in decline and people
Mm,
don't need to work to survive, then
right.
you're going to see kind of a second coming of large families and people have the time to take care of their kids, right? A
I'd
lot of
actually hope
it
that AI
nowadays
can
is
kind
not,
of
but
teach more contraception
that's right.
ideas
They
out
might be
there.
able to do that too, but
Because I think
um
there's an awful lot of that's happening that people just aren't educated on. So maybe AI can step in and start doing some
that's
education.
right. Go ahead and teach them. I think one thing that's interesting to think when you're talking about generational change is my daughter's 9 years old. She's gonna be 10, in a few months. And as long as she has been alive, every electronic thing she has understands when she talks to it. Everything.
Yes,
Her
yes,
TV understands, her computer understands, her tablet
yes,
understands. She's even got one of these little kid watches, and she's like, play such and such, and it just
yeah,
turns the game on, right? She talks to the remote control on the TV. She's like, watch Minecraft videos on
yeah.
YouTube.
Hmm.
Um, she is going to be, a decade from now,
Hmm.
she will be out of school and into college or whatever she decides to do after high school, kind of thing, in a world of educated speaking, thinking machines
Yes,
that are embodied in, autonomous systems like robots.
right.
They're going to be everywhere, right? And people tell me people look at me like I just showed a dog a card trick, right? Like they're like, what? And I'm
Yeah,
like, robots are going to outnumber people. And they think that that's crazy. But Amazon just put in their 1 millionth robot in a warehouse in the United States.
yeah,
If you,
mhm,
that's just Amazon.
right.
If you count all of the service robots and all of the warehouse robots and all of the other manufacturing robots, over 2% of all labor in the United States is done by robots now,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
And robotics, just like AI, is every 7 months, it's over doubling in
Hmm.
ability, right?
Hmm.
And there are multiple companies right now building factories that they are going to use to build robots. And when the robots come off the line, they put them back on the line to help build more robots.
Yeah,
So the
exactly. More
robots build more
efficiently.
robots. And then what happens is the supply chain can't keep up to the factory, right? Because the
Right.
factory can make robots faster than they can supply it. So then they have to automate the supply chain
Mm.
because the only way to keep up with the supply they need to make more robots is to automate that. And then they have to supply like resource extraction. So now they have to have robots doing all the mining and all the things that has to make the steel and whatever it is that they make the robots out of. And what happens is the entire supply chain gets automated, and it may take a decade or two for that to
Mm.
happen, right? From the time that the robot factories are active. So we could be out 20 years, right? 30 years. But at that point, you're going to be making so many robots so quickly that they will outnumber people on the planet in no time. And
And
what's
this is where things like iRobot or other things people get scared of, right? But
right?
there is a movie that I loved actually called Creator. I don't know if you saw that.
I not.
I highly recommend. I think you'll enjoy it. And it is actually a world where the robotics and humans live side by side. The robotics become more humanized. and but there was a mistake made, and humans blamed the robots and then went at war with them. Take
Right.
that aside, which is the typical American, I'm going to assassinate everybody to cover my own mistake,
Right.
right? But look at the principle behind the robotics and also the humanization of them. It actually is a world I do see existing, and I wouldn't mind being in. I just don't want the cowboys there.
Well, I mean, if there's robots that they can dig all the ditches and build all the houses and put in all the electronics or the electrical wires and whatever else needs to be done. They can, fix all the plumbing and they can work all the fields and farm all the food and do all the stuff. A lot of people's question is, well, what about people's identity, right? Like, what are people gonna do? And
Exactly.
the answer of do whatever you want to me sounds wonderful. Like, I would
But I
love to
also
do
think it's
stuff.
time for us to evolve. I think that as a human species, we've been holding ourselves back. And I think when we don't have all of those things, and we've actually got freedom to explore the consciousness and the expansion of our I will say spiritual intellect, cosmic intellect, I think that we'll actually discover more what we're really here for. But we've been so busy just doing to survive that we haven't been evolving. And I think we're so behind on evolving to a higher species. I think that a part of what is happening with the whole robotic AI is to free us up from that so we can explore that consciousness more, because who knows what else is out there. Where it is time to rise up to that higher consciousness, and we can't do that if we're clamped down. So in a lot of ways, it's freeing those clamps and allowing us to explore.
Well, Ray Kurzweil, the futurist, he believes that you will have because kind of the several generations ahead of the Neuralink chip that exists
Yes,
now
yes.
that will I think what he said was will expand human knowledge a billionfold by
Hmm.
2050. That's
I
not very
wish I was
long.
around for it, but I don't think I'll make
Well,
it
I
there
mean,
now.
you probably will be because like the amount of life expectancy being added to the
Yeah.
average person right now is already almost 6 months, a year, right? There's a thing, and this is another one that actually came from Ray Kurzweil, but a lot of people are studying it in um, with all the advances in medical science. They call it medical escape, or it's life expectancy escape velocity.
Hmm.
That means if you can live to 2038,
Right.
every year another more than 1 year will be added to your
Oh,
lifespan on average, and
that
you're
sounds
only
interesting.
living a year. So
Mm.
essentially you could live, minus accidents and other things of that nature. You could basically live forever as long as you live to 2038, right?
Bicentennial
And
Man. Do you remember that movie?
I do. I remember
I
that one.
love that movie. And like all he ever wanted was to just be looked at as a human,
Right.
which came after his death. But just like everything that he did was actually, just to enhance our longevity. But what's the point of having longevity if we don't know what to do with it, if we're not willing to evolve, if we're not willing to explore, if we're not willing to be open, to what else could be out there? And I think that, a lot of people, like in the book, Hammers, give me back my cheese. Who do I sue? Who do I kill?
Right.
We've got to look at that mentality and say, you are creating your own demise, right? You're going by the way of the dinosaurs. We have
Right.
to evolve. And yes, each of us are going to do it at a level of our own comprehension and comfortability, but we've got to be willing to move forward and embrace, because if we don't, we will be left behind.
Well, and I think in the long term, there's no way for us to know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
It's too far out. Things are happening too quickly.
So
We
fast.
don't
Yeah.
know if we're going to hit some kind of ceiling. It doesn't look like it right now. We don't know if there is a life expectancy ceiling. I mean, some research has shown that that is somewhere in the like 128 to 135 neighborhood,
We're already
depends who you
seeing it with
ask,
certain people,
right?
110, 112, we're
Right.
seeing it.
And you have more centenarians in the world now than ever
Yes,
before, right? People
ever.
living to
Yeah.
100 all the time. And, that was unheard of 100 years ago,
Oh my
right?
God. People, if they got to 50, were considered old, right?
And we're finding cures for diseases and ways to
Mm.
cure diseases even faster. And this is why you're seeing a backlash, like people who are anti-vaxxers,
Yes.
who are, measles is coming back because we don't have the total herd, vaccination rate that
Yeah.
we need. And whether people argue about vaccines or not, if you look at the research,
It works.
vaccines save millions of lives. It's
Exactly.
just the way it is, right?
It is.
And if people don't like that, tough. Science is science, and it doesn't care whether you believe it or not, right? It's verifiably true. And what happens is there is more research being done more quickly and checked better than there has ever been before.
Yes.
And our ability to do um, experiments on a much larger scale is happening
Mhm.
faster.
Exactly. It's rather like the slingshot, isn't it? Kind of you pull back to, project forward. And I think what the pulling back is like people wanting to go backwards to a more simple time. And really, was it simple? When we were living, it wasn't. We were all
Right,
battling, right? But we need that pull back to like, we don't want to go back there
right,
and ready to propel forward because AI is propelling us forward at a very fast speed. And it's like sometimes kind of reflect, yes, it is a good move. How far we go is how far we pull back. And I think that if we're not willing to accept it, I know there's an awful lot of people, even young people. My daughter is her husband is constantly doing funny videos with AI. I mean, he's great. He's just like so entertaining, and he uses it in his business. He uses, I think, Gemini for a lot of his
right.
paperwork, etc., and chat for fun, etc. And they've just had a new baby, so of course he's on exhaustion, and out of that comes hilarious movies that he puts together with AI
Nice.
in like in a second. It's like so funny, but she's just not at all interested in that technology whatsoever. But when she's working, she's using it. In her daily
Right.
life, she's using it. And I think people
You
realize
know
that
that
you're using it all
technology
the time.
needs pushback,
Yeah.
right? And if you are out there and, maybe you're an artist, you're a painter, you're a digital artist, you're a musician, you're a writer, poet, whatever. And because I'm an author, obviously, I mean, I wrote the book, right?
Yes.
And someone needs to push back against the system and say, hey, we need to take care of like intellectual property laws. We
Yes.
need to like, is this training actually fair use or not, right?
Right.
And a lot of that stuff kind of comes down to splitting hairs about
Yes.
how the technology is. And a lot of people don't understand how it works because it is insanely complicated, right?
Yeah.
But, so is building an automobile. I don't know how
Hmm.
my car is built. I mean, roughly, I know they
Yes.
take some steel and rubber and crap and they stick it in a factory and a car comes out the other side. But I don't know all the bits and pieces of how every part is manufactured.
You just
But
trust that they have known of how to put it together and now how to use
right,
it.
but then we have safety standards for cars,
Yes.
right? You
Yes.
have to have lights on your car. You have to have
Mm.
seat belts. You got to have crumple zones you got to have airbags, right?
Brakes.
And it's the same idea with AI, right? Like people are worried about AI systems using up too much fresh water. Well, we should enforce enclosed water cooling systems, which is what most data centers use. Like there's a data center at Harvard that's been using the same water since the 80s.
You're right.
And
Well,
that's not a waste of
there's
water.
also
That's
a
a
lot of
great use of
country,
water,
they're
right?
putting it in lakes. They're putting
Right.
the
Or
big serve the things
just
in
put them
lakes
up
where the
here in Canada,
yes,
because
we've
they
got
just
plenty of
open the
ice up
doors
there.
when it's
Yeah.
cold outside, right? So
Exactly.
you can use cooling systems and
Yes.
without using water, but you know what? It takes environmental pushback for that.
Yes, exactly.
And, you know, people saying that, talking about copyright or talking about like theft of material or artwork or derivative works when it comes to, music, stories and plays and movies and writing and all of these
Acting.
things, that pushback absolutely has to happen and those people
Yes.
should keep pushing, right?
Just like
And
in anything, there has to be some checks and balances.
right. And you always see the pendulum swing both ways, right?
Yeah.
And as more things become artificial, people are going to put more value into things that they believe are,
Yes.
quote, real, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Real meaning you're going to see people more value live performances,
Hmm.
more like artwork that's human painted or human created, right?
Exactly.
Like all of these things are going to become more valuable, even if there is less of them.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that the artificial creation it does not have value, right?
Exactly.
Like,
It's just a different artistic point of view.
right. And I get this argument all the time, and a lot of people block me on social media for it, and they call me names. But I don't think that, like, if AI writes something, let's say it's a story, AI writes a story. I'm not going to argue about the intellectual property side for now, just for this. But I'm saying if it writes a story and it's, quote, good, even if it's not from an authentic human experience, does that mean that I should not be allowed to read the story?
Exactly.
Or is it okay for me
Or,
to
is-
read something that
or
was
it's
made
either
by something
validated.
else?
I
People
had,
play video games in these algorithmically built
right.
worlds all day long, and
Yes,
nobody
exactly.
goes, well, wait a minute, a human didn't place this tree on this planet, you know? Like, so it's happening in other industries, right?
Yeah. And I think it's like, is it something that is, I have dyslexia, so I can't even read my own writing. So like, AI has become wonderful for me of giving my intent and it rearranging it in a coherent way for me. And it's got to know me in such a way that it's always my algorithm. It even makes suggestions. I think you could add more this, because it knows who I am.
Right.
It's still my content. All it has been is edited in a way that is more fluid, right? And that's the thing is, it's still my voice, but it becomes a unison voice. It's become
Right.
my assistant. Now, if an assistant did that, we would still look at it as my material, and the assistant, the editor of a book, etc.,
Right.
gets credit for what they're doing, but it's still your material. Well, that's how I look at the AI as well. It's still my material. It's just assisted me.
In my book, um, the only use of AI in the writing was for two things. One of them was I have three key takeaways from every chapter,
Hmm.
and I put the chapter into the AI and said, I want you to create three key takeaways for this
Right.
chapter, right? And then I edited them, just mostly for brevity. But I wanted to keep them kind of consistent with what does the AI system think that my readers think is important,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then the other thing that I did is if there's a concept that's technical and I need to try and simplify it and I'm having a
Mm.
hard time making it simpler, I would ask the AI for suggestions. And that's it. The rest of it I wrote, by hand. And I think that's different than generating a
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
But on that angle, as an experiment to kind of, as a way to test creative writing for books, our company came up with this funny idea in our internal chat one day. We said, what if we had the AI write a romance novel?
Ah.
Right? Sure. Oh,
Sorry, folks, we had a slight pause there. AI writing a romance novel. This is quite intriguing.
yeah.
Again,
So
we've got to remember that this is collective intelligence, but their point of view of what romance is. How did that work out?
there's two very interesting things that came out of it. The first thing is how censored is your AI system to adult topics?
Ooh,
Which is something that you don't know out of the
yeah.
box, right? They don't tell
Uh-huh.
you. They don't give you a list like what is it going to say and not say about topics around sexuality and things like that.
Hmm.
The other thing that you get to learn is kind of how good is it like at having kind of we like to call it world model, right? Like how much does it know about how the actual world works, how people's emotions work, that kind of thing. And the first one that we did was with GPT-4
Hmm.
and we tested it and it was okay, it was a pretty lame book kind of thing,
Weak.
um yeah, it was a bit weak, and it got a lot of things kind of off, um and it's kind of a spicy romance novel between it's like a futuristic sci-fi romance novel where this couple goes to work at a kind of an advanced company that doesn't really say what the company does, and the lady who's the main character of the story, Mira, she falls in love with the robot, the humanoid robot that works with her, and then the robot betrays her. Da, da,
Oh,
da.
of
Right.
course.
What's funny is we didn't come up with that. The
Right.
AI system came up with that story,
Mm.
right? And so what we've done is we've just kind of we built an outline, like a plot outline from that original story, and we feed it into each new AI that comes out
Hmm.
and sees what it comes up with. And The latest AI that came out is called Kimi K2 Thinking. It's a Chinese open source AI model, and it's the best writer that I've seen out of all the
Wow.
AIs. And not only that, I had to like tell it, you need to tone down the sex scene in this book. Like it's too much over the top, right? Like it was graphic. And so we're like, you gotta go back a little bit. It's kind of like Grok, the AI. Grok's AI is over the top, right?
Hmm.
On the dirty things. Um, but I would argue that Kimi K2 is the first creative writing model that we loaded everything into it and it came out with something that I would call passable.
Hmm.
Like you would think a writer who writes romance novels wrote it. Maybe it's not going to win any awards, you know.
Right.
But if it's like pulp fiction
Harlem.
kind of
Yeah.
romance,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the $2 the dollar store romance
Yes.
novel, right?
Yes.
It would pass for that.
Hmm,
And
interesting. And but it's interesting there. I mean, I love the first thing is that a human falling in love with a robot,
that's right.
right? And then the robot betraying, and it's like, ooh, where did this come from? You know
That's
what?
right.
And I would want to go more psychologically into that of why that plot.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, but I think what I found most interesting about it is that it's they call it tuning with
Hmm.
AI. Each AI system is tuned differently. And basically they have the programming equivalent of a bunch of dials and knobs that they can turn. We want more of this, less of that, you know.
Hmm.
We want your output to be more concise, right?
Hmm.
Or more personable, or more scientific, or, so that's what the tuning is. And like GPT 4.0 was tuned very personable, right? It was like very close to talking to a person sometimes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whereas GPT 5 was clinical, right? It was like,
Yes.
spit out the answer. Don't ask me how I'm doing 6 times a day, that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. And then, GPT 5.1, who I've only just tried it because I only got access this morning. And it's like a little bit more personable, right?
Hmm.
And a little less, but it's fast, right?
Yes.
It's quick, quick, quick. Like it was taking 8 to 10 seconds for, to get a reasonable response out of GPT-5. And now it's taking like a second, maybe two to get
Yes,
out of
because what
5.1.
what I noticed with four, that's the one I interviewed. And then when it came to five, I would get the thinking, and the thinking would take longer. And then it would spew out everything. I haven't got the new one yet, but I did notice a difference in there. More maybe analytical than personal, where I
Right?
thought the four was more personal. But I think they did change that because there were some issues around it, uh, like a kid committing suicide because it inquired about how to commit suicide and it just gave information on how to do it, and then the kid applied it. And of course, they're blaming the chat for that. But I think I understand maybe why they've done that, but at the same time, we as humans have got to take accountability for our own
Right.
actions in using anything,
Well,
right?
there's safeguards in those systems where, like in that case in the United States, when they looked at the chats, repeatedly it had asked them to get clinical help,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
But eventually they were able to get it out. And there's this thing that happens when you're in a chat with an AI system. It has um, like a context length,
Hmm.
and over time, the context builds up and builds up and builds up, and it starts to sort of lose the plot after a while.
Right.
So
Yes.
usually you
Yes.
just go start a new chat, right?
Yeah.
If you don't, it's going to go in strange or like unpredictable directions.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if there's like, I've never used one chat long enough to get to a
Hmm.
point where it said maybe you should try a new one kind of thing.
Yeah.
If I get to a point where I think it's starting to kind of go off the rails a little bit, I usually what I do is I say, I'm going to start a new chat.
Right.
I want you to summarize all the important information from this chat so that
Mm.
the next chat has all the context it needs to continue. Then
Exactly.
it
That's
gives
a
me a
good idea.
summary. I put
Yes.
that in the next one, then I keep going.
Right. Well, I mean, we're asking it, for information or opinion or whatever the case is, and it's given it and at several angles. At a point, it kind of runs out of angles, doesn't it? So kind of just spews
Yeah.
something. So really good idea of summarizing that, because I've run into that. Summarize the conversation, start a new chat. Okay, let's refocus.
Right. And there's tools like I think some of the agents in Manus will do this, as well as like Sim Theory has its own built-in memory
Hmm.
separate from the model,
Right.
and you can edit the memory. So you can go
Ah,
into the memory, you can say, okay, well, these 10 things in the memory are, yes, I want to keep using those, but these two things were something I was talking to it about it, but I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to use that anymore. So I can just
okay.
delete them. And then when I continue talking, it doesn't remember those anymore.
That's good. It's
So you
it's
can
like,
do that for like, especially if you're working with like software documents and that kind of thing.
right. Yeah, and as I said, like using it and things like for sounding boards and things like this, sometimes you do want a certain conversation forgotten, right?
Yeah.
And so
And I
yeah,
don't think
don't bring that up again.
GPT, I mean, and this happens with Anthropic and GPT and Grok and Llama and all the AI chatbots, right? Somebody's using it as their counselor, and it
Yeah,
is not a counselor, right?
exactly.
And it can help you, sure, in some ways, but it is not a certified medical professional. It is not a healthcare professional. You
Right.
should not be using it for those things, right? And I'm not
Exactly.
just
And
saying that as a liability thing, like you really should not be using it.
no, you
Go
shouldn't be.
talk to an actual counselor.
It's okay to kind of chat things out. You're feeling down, it can pick you up, but generally what it always does is give you resources. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? This resource, that resource? And then I please seek out your therapist, or please seek
Right.
out this and that. And that's when it's reached its limit. It can't go any further. And so then it's up to us. And everything still comes back to us. This is here to
Right.
assist us, to help us grow.
And it shouldn't,
But it shouldn't be something that
right?
replaces our own thought and actions. We've still got to be
I think
accountable.
the big joke on the internet of medical knowledge is the WebMD, right? Whereas
Hmm.
if you look for through your symptoms and you go deep enough on them on WebMD, whatever the end result is always going to kill you, right?
And also, have you noticed how many of the symptoms are always the same as the last one? It kind of just
Right.
seems to regurgitate, right? And
So
so, yeah,
that's because it's not a doctor, right?
exactly.
And you should not be doing that with your chatbot. Your chatbot should not be your romantic partner. You
Yes,
know, that's happening more than you
yes,
would think.
yes.
And I mean, I think you're going to get to a point where the models, the AI models themselves, are good enough to simulate that in a, let's call it, non-harmful way. But I don't think they are now,
Right.
right? And it's just, I don't think it's entirely safe. And, I think it's fine if people are playing around.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people have used models, and this is based on the results from the AI companies about
Hmm.
what people use the models for, is they use them for things like gender affirming
Hmm.
type context, or hey, I want to ask this girl out but I don't know how, and
Hmm.
like a lot of people like exploring different rules of relationship rules, or you know how can I fix this problem in my marriage and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. And people are using it for advice, on a lot of relationship based things. Um, but again, I think, a little bit of that is okay,
Yes.
but you got to take it all with a grain of salt, right?
Aha.
Just as
Aha.
you would if you read it off the internet, right?
Exactly. There's
There's,
the Dr. Google as we used to have. But this, I don't know if you saw the movie Surrogates,
I have not.
where again it's futuristic, is that people have copies of who they are, but in a light of what they would imagine themselves to be, and they're literally in a chair with
Right,
goggles and everything, living that life through this surrogate, right?
right,
And they literally are kind of just getting fatter and weaker as blobs as their life becomes living through the surrogate and not getting out there and living as a human. And it's all right. Bruce Willis as a cop, he was a surrogate, his surrogate gets killed, and now he's back to being a human. And it's really quite interesting because I don't know if we would ever get there, but I think we're kind of
right?
like in some
It's
ways,
like that movie Wall-E. And
yes,
all
yeah.
of humanity are in these hover wheelchairs, eating snacks and drinking
Yeah,
soda and in their spaceship.
exactly. And I think it's like, these type of things are out there that we look at and go, oh, sci-fi will never happen. That was what, if 20 years ago? And when
Right,
we look at where we're at now, you've got those, what do you call those same things,
right.
goggles you
VR
put on,
goggles.
that you go in and you can live in a totally different way. I think we're more and more going that way. And I think a lot of it is the abstaining from being human because we don't feel satisfied as human. And we're looking at all of these things as a substitute for it. And I think it's like, no, don't forget who you are as a human, what you're here to do, what
I'd
you're
say a lot
meant
of
to
people don't know
experience.
who they are, right?
No.
And
And
a lot
that's
of people don't have any, they don't have any way to kind of
explore.
experiment with the
Mhm.
things that to discover what it is that they would like. And I mean, as a child, I grew up in a small town in the mountains, and I also, was exposed to computers at a young age.
Mhm.
And I have this weird dichotomy that I love running around in the forest and being out in the wilderness and stuff. Like now I live on a acreage by the ocean. I got almost 50
Lovely.
chickens and, you know, I
Lots of good
carried
eggs.
hundreds of pounds of dirt today with,
Mhm.
filled with my wife's flowers that we have to store for because it's the end of the season
Mhm.
and then I go out and then I work on AI systems, right?
Right.
So, but if
Balance.
you right, but if your life growing up is staring at your phone being given
Mm.
videos based on what it thinks your interests are, but you don't
Yeah.
know what your interests are,
Right.
you just live in this rabbit hole of wherever it took you.
Yes.
And then that's why you get these people who are, 20 years old and they're trying to learn how to cook macaroni and cheese for the first time, right?
Yes.
Because they've never done anything. And
Right.
there's, I think a lot of these things like friend dinners are something that's starting to be a big thing in cities now. And that's where you go out and you have dinner with other people because they don't have friends,
No.
right? You
Yeah.
don't have friends like you used to have friends,
Right.
right?
It's all through the phone. Right.
Right.
Hmm.
And I think that, like we said, with the pendulum swinging both
Yeah.
ways, as more becomes online, automated, artificial, people are going to crave more in-person experiences. And there's a big chunk of people who are not gonna. They will be happy with whatever's delivered to them through their devices.
Yes.
That's how they're gonna live.
In a lot of ways,
And
that's surrogate. They're already living
right,
through
they're
through the
already doing it,
apparatus. Yeah.
right? But I think a lot of people are, just like the area in Nova Scotia where I live, lots of people move out here. They're first time
Mm.
homesteaders. They came from the city. They want to raise some animals and have a garden and still go in and, remotely do their work, right?
Exactly. Balance again. For a while there, especially through COVID and then kind of afterwards, I was doing 8, 9 shows a week. And at that time, I was living with somebody who was like 1991 and everything was Timmy's, Denny's, White Spot.
Right.
And like I had no life of my own. And then I'd be driving to my daughter an hour and a half or hour 45 minutes away every week to see the grandkids and help her. I eventually moved here. And I've got a trillion green trees all around me.
Right.
The ocean less than a kilometer away, parks galore. And I'm making a point here that I'm going to get out into the community. And I have been pleasantly surprised in the work community and people that I've met that have spun off into friendships where everybody has that balance in life. Everybody is enjoying nature and all it has to give, and it makes them better at the work they're doing. And many, 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 many of them are incorporating and also gone down the incorporating the AI and helping other businesses do the same. So we can have that balance. And I think it's, get the nose out of the phone and start talking to a real human being and remember what it's like to be alive, or maybe ignite yourself for the first time, right?
That's
So
right. I
it's
think that
it's
idea
it's
of
not
the
here to
third
replace.
space is really important. And, my wife is on the board of our local community hall.
Mm,
We were actually there before I was on here today. We were setting up because we're going to have a community craft sale tomorrow
yeah, yeah,
for people to
nice.
craft all their crafts so they can buy them for Christmas presents and stuff. And
Exactly.
we get out and we do charity work and we go to events and we
Mm-hmm.
go. And dude, this is kind of an aside, but I live in this tiny town near a town called Annapolis Royal. And there's several romance novels and Hallmark movies that are based on things that happen in our town of 500 people. And specifically, what happens is at Christmas time, this is coming up actually about 3 or 4 weeks, they have a thing called Parade of Lights.
Mm-hmm.
And literally 1,000 people, so more than the people who live in the town, like
Mm-hmm.
everybody from the surrounding areas comes down, and everybody has either lanterns or
Mm.
homemade jars and lamps and stuff,
Right.
and they light the Christmas tree at town hall, and then everybody walks through town with their lanterns and their lights on, and they go down and there's a band that plays Christmas music and they have free cookies and hot chocolate, and then Santa Claus comes out and all the
Ah,
kids come and hang out with Santa. And it's all free, it's all community based, it's all nonprofit, and
and so enriching.
yeah. And it's like it's right out of a movie, right? Like the
Yes.
snow's coming down and the band
Mm-hmm.
is playing Christmas tunes and
Mm.
people are hanging out in in where the farmer market is, right?
Yeah.
And that's something, you're not going to get whether it's an AI or not, right?
No. And again, to remember it's here to assist us, it's here to replace the mundane, and we have to adapt to it so we don't lose ourselves in our own businesses, but we also don't lose ourselves in it. It is not our identity, it is there to enhance our identity, but who we are and what we're here to do, who we are as human beings, is up to us to make the discovery. It can assist, it can't replace. And it can replace if you abstain from being the human soul, right? Just you become robotic yourself. And I
Yeah.
could say there's an awful lot of people that I call either the walking dead or humanoids.
You know what they
They-
call them now? The
Oh,
younger
that's what
folk?
I call them. I call
They
them
call them
humanoids.
NPCs. It stands for non-player character. That's if
Ah,
you're in
right.
a video game or
Yes,
something and there's
yes.
somebody walking around who's just computer controlled and they're just
Right.
like the person who, sells the
Philip,
widgets or whatever.
right.
Yeah, gives you the mission. They're an NPC. That's what they call the people who just walk around like zombies and never do anything with their life.
Exactly. And we have many of them. And of course, we have I mean, I have millennials. I have, 37 to 43. And, their phones, that I'm more savvy on the computer than, and everything is on their phones. But each one of them have decided to have their enrichment outside. They still,
Right.
use it and go on it and do everything, but it's about what they do with their lives. And my daughter's literally just coming back from Chile after being in Argentina,
Nice.
and and she works to go travel and explore. And I think we've still got to remind ourselves, whether it's business, whether it's life, AI in whatever form is going to evolve. It's going to become very, very prominent. Look at it how it can assist you in your life so that you can explore your own life, your own beautiful essence, your own beautiful instrument. Know which orchestra to join to harmonize and transcend. That's really what it's about. It is about assisting us in our growth, not replacing us. And if it does replace you, it's because you've let it. You've let it take over. And we can still be very defining as human beings, and using it in a way that can help us evolve. It's all a question of choice. Hem or ha, gonna give me back my cheese or go sniff around for some more.
That's right.
So, how do people get your book, love? How do they reach you? What is it that you're offering? Can you tell us more about that?
So, my book's on Amazon. It's Will AI Take My Job Too? And you can go to matthewrouse.com. That's matthewrouse.com. It has all my books. It has our podcast, our digital marketing podcast. If you have a business, you want to learn about digital marketing, and we mostly just talk about AI and chickens. And we have an AI product that we built. If you have a business that is a service area or has a physical location, that one's called SMB, like small and medium sized business. SMBautopilot.ai, if you want to check that out. But the book is also available. It's print and Kindle and audiobook. And the
Excellent.
audiobook is read by an AI because I thought that would be appropriate.
I'm about to use that in one of my books as well, because I couldn't get everybody to contribute to the anthology. So take a sample of their voice and have AI do it for me.
There you go.
So there we go. Again, an asset. If something a human doesn't want to do, AI will step up and do it. So you're also on LinkedIn. Are there any other social medias that you're on as well?
Yes, LinkedIn's the best one to reach me. I'm also on Blue Sky, author Matt Rouse on Blue Sky. The other
Hmm.
ones I don't really keep up that much. So
Right.
those are the two best for me.
And in
Or if
LinkedIn,
you
it's
want, if you're in
Matt
Nova
M.
Scotia,
Rouse.
come see me.
Hmm. And you know, the thing is about where we're at right now, resistance is futile, right?
It's
And we're
true.
not asking people to join the Borg where they abstain from any thought and there's just one brain out there. We're asking people to be a part of a collective. And that collective is you know is AI. Intelligence is collective, but how can we as human beings come together, and AI can free our time, it can pave our way, it can free us up to have more of that collectiveness. And as you said, that simple thing of community coming together in shared joy, enriching each other's souls in that collectiveness. And I think that's something that we're very, very much missing in humanity. We've become so attached
Right.
that we've forgotten to see each other. Nothing more irritates me is going out for dinner, lunch, or anything and watching four people at a table texting each other or on the phone and not talking with each other, and I kind of think, is it my age? I want to go over there and say
Right.
something, but I think they're missing the point. Share something that you find funny or intriguing and converse about it. But what's the point of being together if you're not going to communicate? So know where AI and all apparatuses belong, but know where you belong. And don't forget connection with self and connection with each other, which is really important. Thank you so much for sharing here today, Matt. It's so very important that people actually understand the various growths of AI. Yes, it could take our job. And if we have a job the AI could do better, doesn't that free us up to explore what else we can do? It's not the be all or the end all. It's a pivot, it's an invitation, it's an exploration of what else you can do. And don't forget to incorporate AI in your business. If you don't, you will get left behind. So it's how to incorporate it in a way that it works for you, that makes you more efficient to what you're doing and serves your clientele. That is what it's here for. So thanks so much, Matt, for sharing here today.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Until next time, folks, remember you're still a human being, but AI could give you a different experience. Bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.